Greetings, my dear friends. This is Dreamweaver Mystics as always. Today I want to talk about animals, but not the ones we see every day. The ones that make us scratch our heads and ask, how could this even happen? Creatures that look like someone's joke, or an experiment, or a glitch in the Matrix. Before I begin, I want to say, these are only my thoughts and guesses. I am not claiming evolution does not exist. I am not claiming the world was created by someone. I am simply looking at the strangeness of nature and asking questions. And you decide whether to agree or to doubt. So, let us start with the most famous oddball of the animal kingdom, the platypus. When European scientists first saw a platypus skin in the late 18th century, they thought it was a fake, that some prankster had sewn together parts of different animals, a duck's bill, a beaver's tail, otter feet, and on top of that, venomous spurs on its hind legs like a reptile. It lays eggs. It nurses its young with milk, but it has no nipples. The milk simply seeps out through pores in its skin. This is a mammal that lays eggs, that has a bill, that is venomous, that glows under ultraviolet light. From an evolutionary perspective, the platypus is a real challenge. It seems to have collected features of reptiles, birds, and mammals all in one. Scientists call it a basal form, a kind of living fossil that preserved traits from ancient ancestors. But the question remains, why did it keep these traits when everyone else went a different path? Why did nature decide to keep this experiment running? Or was it not nature that decided? Now let's talk about a creature that challenges the very concept of death, the immortal jellyfish. Turritopsis dohrnii is a species of hydrozoan. On the outside, it is unremarkable, small, transparent, with tentacles. But it has a superpower. When it faces starvation, injury, or stress, it does not die. It transforms back into a polyp. It starts life over. It grows again. It can transform again, and so on. Potentially forever. Biologists call this transdifferentiation. Cells change their type. Intestinal cells become muscle cells. Muscle cells become nerve cells. The organism literally reboots. In laboratory conditions, these jellyfish can repeat this cycle over and over. Theoretically, they are immortal. Practically, they can still be eaten or killed by disease. But the fact remains, nature created a creature that does not age, that can rewind time. This is not a bug, it is a feature. But why? For what purpose? Next candidate, the Mantis Shrimp. This crustacean lives in tropical seas. It is about the size of a human hand, but the force of its punch is comparable to a bullet. Punch speed, 23 meters per second. Acceleration, 10,000 G. That is 10 times more than a human could withstand. The mantis shrimp strikes with its claw so fast that it creates a cavitation bubble, a low-pressure area. When the bubble collapses, it releases light, heat, and a shock wave. The water around it boils. A spark appears. The temperature briefly reaches the surface temperature of the sun. It can break aquarium glass. It can tear off a crab's limb. It kills fish with the shock wave without even touching them. Why does a tiny crustacean need such a weapon? From an evolutionary perspective, this is overkill. It is like giving a child a nuclear bomb. This is not explained by natural selection as Darwin described it. Now, let's look at a geographical oddity, marsupials. They live mostly in Australia. Kangaroos, koalas, wombats, Tasmanian devils. They have a pouch where they carry their young. Why only in Australia? Why were they outcompeted by placental mammals on other continents? Geographic isolation is an explanation, but it does not answer the question, why did they arise at all? Why did nature create two different ways of carrying offspring? One, placental, advanced. The other, marsupial, primitive. But if marsupials are so primitive, why are they so successful in Australia? Maybe they are not primitive. Maybe they are different. Maybe this is an alternative branch of creation. Here is another strange example. The naked mole rat, a small rodent from East Africa. It barely ages. It does not get cancer. It does not feel pain from burns or acid. It lives in underground colonies, like insects, with a queen, workers, and soldiers. This is a mammal that behaves like an ant, a mammal that does not age. Its lifespan is up to 30 years. For a rodent of its size, that is 10 times longer than average. A mouse lives 2 to 3 years. A rat lives 3 to 4. A naked mole rat lives 30. And it does not look old. It does not get sick. It just lives. Researchers are trying to unlock the secret of its longevity in hopes of applying it to humans. But the question remains, why would nature create an immortal rodent? What is the evolutionary advantage? And one last example for today, the octopus. It has 3 hearts, blue blood, 8 arms with thousands of suckers, each of which can move independently. It can change the color and texture of its skin in a fraction of a second. It opens jars, solves puzzles, recognizes people. Scientists say octopuses are the most intelligent invertebrates on the planet. But their intelligence is strange, not like that of vertebrates. It is as if it evolved separately, in a parallel universe. And here is the most interesting part. The octopus's genetic code is incredibly complex. It has more genes than humans. And many of those genes are unique, found nowhere else on Earth, as if the octopus came from another planet, or was created separately. After all these examples, I have a legitimate question. Does Darwin's theory even work? I am not saying it is wrong. I am saying it is perhaps incomplete. Darwin spoke about natural selection. The fittest survive. But how does natural selection explain the platypus, which looks like a random collection of parts? How does it explain the immortal jellyfish, which could take over the world but somehow does not? How does it explain the mantis shrimp, with a weapon thousands of times more powerful than it needs to survive? How does it explain the octopus, with intelligence that came from nowhere? Darwin himself had doubts about his theory. He wrote about the Cambrian explosion problem. When about 500 million years ago, almost all animal types appeared suddenly, without visible predecessors. This is not evolution. This is an explosion, as if someone turned on the generator of life. And here I return to my old theories. Theories we have already discussed on this channel. What if the world is a simulation? What if strange animals are glitches in the code? Or, on the contrary, features that the programmer left for us as clues? The platypus is like a model where someone mixed several textures. The jellyfish is like an infinite loop in a program that never lets it end. The mantis shrimp is like a weapon from a video game whose power is completely unbalanced. The octopus is like an alternative intelligence written in a different programming language. Or maybe we are the experiment, not just us humans, but all life on Earth. Someone set up an experiment, placed different life forms in different conditions, watched to see what would happen. The platypus is an early version that was not yet optimized. The naked mole rat is an attempt to create an immortal character. The mantis shrimp is a test of combat capabilities. Or maybe Earth is a sanctuary, or a zoo, or a museum. Someone collected the most diverse forms of life here, not for them to survive through struggle, but for us to look and wonder. I do not know which version is correct. Maybe all of them, maybe none. But I know one thing. The animals we talked about today do not fit into a simple picture of the world. They make us doubt, and doubt is the beginning of wisdom. Scientists will say that each of these phenomena has a scientific explanation. The platypus is a basal form. The jellyfish has unique cellular adaptation. The mantis shrimp is predator evolution. The octopus is convergent evolution. But these explanations describe how these animals work. They do not explain why they are that way. Why exactly that way? Why not some other way? And in that gap between how and why lives the mystery. Perhaps we will never know the truth. Perhaps the answers lie beyond our understanding. Like for a video game character, beyond its screen. But we can ask questions. And sometimes, in rare moments, we feel like we can see the edge. The edge of reality. The edge of the code. The edge of the simulation. And in those moments, we see a platypus. And we smile. And that is all for today. This was Dreamweaver Mystics. Until next time. And remember, if you ever meet a platypus, ask it who it is. Maybe it will answer.